Alrighty, so today we are going to do a news of the week episode because believe it or not, we actually did had some news that happened in this past week amidst of the busy World Cup action that we are having right now. And I thought I want to do a video that is not related to me, just keep doing reviews of these group stage games for the past couple of days. Now, the first news we're going to talk about actually happened a couple of days ago, and that is Atlanta United naming Garth Lagerway as their new president and CEO. Now, when this news broke out, it definitely surprised a lot of people because didn't Garth Lagerway was just announced a week or two ago that he was retained as the Seattle Sounders, and I think this is where people got confused. The fact that they thought that the Sounders re-signed Garth Lagerway, where in reality what happened is that the Sounders have this special system where they can vote on who can be their president of their team, and the supporters can do that. And we had a vote that was going on between them to see whether or not if Garth Lagerway can maintain to be the president of the Sounders or if he's going to be voted out. And the supporter basically decided to vote to keep him in. That doesn't mean the fact that he is going to receive a new contract extension with the team. So that basically kind of still opens the door a little bit that maybe he could go somewhere else, especially with the way that I think his contract with the Sounders was started to run down. And there's definitely a couple of clubs that have been rumored of potentially getting Garth Lagerway, and I feel like in the end Atlanta United was probably the best team to do so because this is a club that, just like the Sounders, they're very ambitious in terms of spending money, and they have a big fan base. And also, not to mention that I think this will absolutely help Atlanta United because it's been chaos for the past year or two with this regime, and that now that Garth Lagerway stepped in, it's going to be interesting to see whether maybe he might change it up a little bit. I mean, as of now, we still see Carlos Bocanegra and Gonzalo Pineda as the head coach and the technical director of this Atlanta United team, also known as the GM. But it'll be interesting to see whether if he will, of course, change it. I'm assuming he's probably going to keep Pineda as the head coach because both of them has Sounders connection, but I'm not sure about Carlos Bocanegra. And if anything, I think this now really puts the pressure on Carlos Bocanegra because I know there's been a lot of Atlanta fans that's been calling for Bocanegra head for a long time, and I guess maybe the reason why that isn't he hasn't really been getting too much heat is because it feels like maybe the front office feel like he's doing a good job, but now under this new kind of front office and presumably this new regime, there could be some changes. And I think if Bocanegra does not get this right in terms of the transfer this off season, and if Atlanta doesn't improve, I won't be surprised Garth Lagerway might decide to fire him, and the same goes with Gonzalo Pineda too. But either way, I'm pretty sure this definitely give a lot of Atlanta fans some hope because Garth Lagerway has really become one of the best, if not the best president and sporting director that we have had out of all the team. I mean, after all, he basically led a team that have won multiple MLS Cup and also just so in this previous season win the CONCACAF Champions League. Now, moving on, in the next news is that Wilfried Nancy will be named as the new head coach of the Columbus Crew, and this is actually just according to a report a couple of days ago, and this is not a big surprise because I think we knew this was going to happen, knowing what we heard about last month, where Wilfried Nancy had some fracturing relationship with Joey Saputo and Montreal, and it just feels like it was getting to a point where it was a no-brainer, the fact that he was going to leave Montreal to go to Columbus. And it seems like they said that the source says that as soon as Monday will come and as soon as this weekend is over, Columbus will officially announce Wilfried Nancy as their new head coach. And I think that this is definitely a huge upgrade to Caleb Porter. I mean, in fact, I would say that you could argue maybe anything is an upgrade to Caleb Porter, and this is not to diss Caleb Porter. No, I mean, he still won 2 MLS Cup, but let's be honest, he was really one of the biggest problems, not the biggest problem for the Crew, and the biggest liability, and the reason why they didn't make it to the playoffs last season. So now we have Wilfried Nancy, who we know what he can do with a Montreal side that hasn't made the playoffs for a long time, and that's definitely had some talent it's the same thing with this Columbus Crew team, and that I think he's going to develop this team to be a really good team and kind of play up to its potential. Because on paper, when you look at the talent that the Crew has, this team should be not only a playoff contender but an MLS Cup contender. This team could easily get themselves in the top four of the Eastern Conference if things goes right. Now, the Houston Dynamo have decided to sign Andrew Tarbell and Artur off of free agency, and these are kind of very Houston Dynamo kind of move, where it feels like for the Dynamo, as much as I know they are most likely going to go for a rebuild, they always tends to decide to sign a couple of filler gaps or kind of just some reclamation project in terms of helping their rebuild. Now, in the case of Andrew Tarbell, I mean, I can't believe that now he has now bounced to another Texas team. I mean, Austin fans are probably not going to be happy about it, but at the same time, Austin fans probably will say that it's kind of good riddance because Tarbell didn't do really well with Austin FC, and now he's going to go to the Dynamo, which I'm assuming he's probably just going to be the backup. I don't think he's going to be the starter for this team. If he is a starter, then I think that's a mistake because I don't think he's starter quality of a goalkeeper anymore. Now, in terms of Artur, now this move made maybe a couple of years ago, it would have been a great move. But the problem is, Artur, he is getting up to that age, getting up to that twilight of his career, and also not to mention, he's also been injury prone. So add to the factor of that is that, yeah, it feels like that's another example of a reclamation project or somebody that is a veteran player that comes through the Dynamo, and they hope that it will work out, but we'll see whether if that is going to be the case. Speaking of players that pretty much is in their last leg of the career is Victor Vasquez, and I didn't think this was going to happen, and that is TFC decided to re-sign him off of free agency. Now, again, I don't know if this is just for nostalgia kind of factor, because, Victor Vasquez, I know a lot of TFC fans will never forget what he did back in 2016 and 2017 as part of that TFC team that was really the juggernaut of not just the Eastern Conference, but in MLS itself. But let's be honest, Victor Vasquez is way past his prime, and that, again, this feels like it's just for a nostalgia kind of moment, just for him to kind of welcome to the place where the fans have really kind of cherished him a lot. But again, I'm pretty sure even if you're a TFC fan, you're kind of surprised that he decided to come back again to your club, because you thought that when he left the team to go to I think he went to the Middle East, looked like he was going to ride off to the sunset, that would be the last time we see him in MLS or even in a TFC jersey. But little do we know that 6 years later, or in this case 5 years later, he's decided to go back to the club that kind of what makes his name. And I know for a fact that he probably won't make that same impact that he did 5 years ago, but at least I will say that he could be a good piece that they could use coming off the bench, and also just for some nostalgia kind of moment, because why not bring in some of the players that are from the team and some memories that I'm pretty sure TFC fans still have from all those players from the 2016 teams, where those are really considered to be some of the best team we have ever seen in MLS history. Now, Orlando City, they signed a pair of players this week, as they signed Maurizio Pereira. Well, actually, they didn't sign a pair of players. They actually only signed one player. They actually signed Maurizio Pereira to a 2-year extension. Now, what's important about this contract is that they were able to buy him down to just a TAM contract. And this was big for Orlando City, because this was one of the thing that they were hoping to convince Maurizio Pereira to have, where they can take off his designated player contract and buy him down to a TAM contract. And that, they even were rumored that maybe he wasn't going to come back because of the fact that maybe he doesn't want his contract to be downgraded into a TAM contract and take less money. But eventually they, of course, were able to work out, and it's huge too, because they obtained their heartbeat in that attacking midfield. I mean, even though Maurizio Pereira is started to get up to the age a little bit at 32, he is still a guy that is key to this Orlando City side, and that is if he's healthy, because he's also another player that is a bit injury prone. But they also have signed Felipe Martins on a 1-year contract, and I think that's a good signing, because Felipe Martins, We know what he did with Austin, where even though he didn't really start it regularly, he was a very good locker room present, and I think he's kind of one of those guys that I think could be good for the locker room, which is kind of insane to say because a couple of years ago he was considered to be a villain in MLS with all those dirty challenge that he was making. But nowadays, I think he's definitely gone to a point where he has become a bit of a leader in the locker room and can provide good locker room kind of atmosphere. And sometimes for every team, you just need that kind of player to just kind of boost morale within the locker room. And I think this is a good sign things for Orlando City to do so. Now, DC United have signed Pedro Santos from the Columbus Crew off of free agency, and I'm gonna say the same thing I said about the Artur signing. If this was a couple of years ago, I think this would have worked out for DC United. But Pedro Santos has kind of started to wind down to the end of his career, and that we'll see whether or not if he have some. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna be a regular starter still for this DC team. I mean, I'm assuming he's probably still trying to hope that he is going to be a guy that can be a proven goal scorer, as we see many times in the past. But again, he is a guy that started to decline some production a little bit. But hey, it doesn't hurt. You of course sign him off of free agency, see if he has anything left in the tank. If he has something left in the tank, it's an absolute steal. But if he doesn't have anything left in the tank, then at least you can write him off the books, because you of course were able to sign him off of free agency and you didn't really waste too much money to get him. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and now let's start about some transfer rumors. We had Alistair Johnston linked with a Scottish giant, Celtic FC. So here we go. We already have the first MLS player that is currently playing the World Cup and doing well, that linked with a big move. And this is not a big surprise because there was always talk that Alistair Johnston most likely is going to be leaving Montreal this offseason, and he's going to go with a big club in Europe. Well, not a big club, but I would say just a club that he's going to go there and develop well. And joining Celtic, I mean, it's definitely up there as one of the more well-known club, not only in Scotland but in Europe, and that they of course regularly play in European football. But the question is whether or not if he is going to get starting minutes, because we have seen before where players have decided to go to Scottish club, and it's been kind of a mixed kind of bag. I mean, on one hand, when James Sands decided to go to Rangers, I have heard some good things about him being with the club. He's been doing very well and has been getting minutes. But on the other hand, I've seen players that have gone to Scotland, have joined teams, and it didn't quite work out. One example was Matt Polster. Remember, he joined Rangers and it didn't quite work out for him. So yeah, we'll see if the rumors, of course, is true, and that if it is true, then I do feel like Alistair Johnston is going to get regular minutes, because again, he is probably one of the best fullbacks in the league, an up and coming fullbacks, not only for the Canadian national team, but maybe in the world too. He has a lot of raw talent that he can definitely use to fulfill potential to become one of the best fullbacks in the world. And we'll see whether if that is going to be the case, if he is going to join Celtic. And it's also going to be interesting to see how much money Montreal is going to get, because they definitely demand big amount if they want to sell one of their biggest assets. Now, moving on in the next news, we have sources saying that DC United have signed Minnesota United goalkeeper Tyler Miller off of free agency. In fact, it's not sources say anymore. It is actually official. They have signed Minnesota United goalkeeper Tyler Miller, and I'm gonna laminate what I said before, where I just feel like this was a huge missed opportunity for the Loons to decided to kind of sell Tyler Miller maybe last summer or even last year, where they can at least get some profit out of that. But now, knowing the fact that he's a free agent, they got absolutely nothing out of it. But at the same time, you kind of knew that Tyler Miller had to move on. Like, knowing the fact that Dane Sinclair is the number one, I think Tyler Miller was just too good to be a backup goalkeeper. So yeah, he decided to join DC United, and that again, he's going to definitely get some regular minutes, at least until we might maybe even have some goalkeeping competition with Bill Hamid, though. Bill Hamid, I think he's still injured right now, so he's going to be thrust into the action straight away. And I think he's a decent goalkeeper, Tyler Miller. I mean, I know he's been kind of a little bit rusty because of the fact that he hasn't been getting a lot of minutes. But once he gets going, he's definitely a guy that I think could be an above average goalkeeper in this league. And I think DC United got a good deal out of that, especially off a free agency. Like I said it before, coming into this summer, if there's a team that desperately need goalkeeping help, there's a Tyler Miller waiting for anyone to claim, and that DC United took full advantage of that. Now, there are sources saying that St. Louis is looking to sign longtime Vancouver Whitecaps fullback Jake Nowinski, and if this is of course true, then yeah, I think it's a good signings for St. Louis because Jake Nowinski, I know there's been some hate that I know Whitecaps fan might give to Jake Nowinski, but overall I think he's a good utility player and a guy that he at times could be a very hard-working kind of player, and that I think for St. Louis, knowing the fact that they want to fill out some of their fullback role, I think that this would be a definitely a good addition for them. Speaking of fullback, one of the legendary fullback in U.S. soccer history, DeMarcus Beasley, and the once all-time goal scorer in MLS and they now tied with Clint Dempsey as the all-time U.S. goal scorer. Landon Donovan has officially been inducted in the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame, and I don't think that's a big surprise because these two players, if you're a U.S. fan, even going back to the 2010s or the late 2000s, these were players that you will definitely cherish for a long time. I mean, anytime when you mention Landon Donovan, except if you don't want to talk about the way that he is at the booth, he is an absolute legend of a player and a guy that is also starting becoming an upcoming prospect in the head coaching role because he's been doing a very good job during his time coaching the San Diego Loyals in the USL Championship. And then DeMarcus Beasley, I mean, what else do I say about Run DMB that I don't need to say about? He's an ageless wonder. He's a guy that just been incredible for the U.S. For a very long time, and that I mean, I feel like the induction for this year, and we're gonna get some good induction in the year time, but this one is probably one of the best that we've seen in the past couple of years. And then finally, last thing I want to talk about, and actually we'll now go back to talk about some of the World Cup kind of news, is that I want to talk about how there's actually 15.3 million viewers that watched the England versus U.S. group stage game, which is by far the most that have ever tuned in for a live soccer event in television history. And yeah, I don't think this is a big surprise because, again, Fox really hyped it this game. Like, they really hyped this game in a big way. Like, there's time where and actually it's not just Fox. Like, there's times when I'm driving the car and listening to the radio, they were even putting commercial about this game. That just shows you how much the media really hyped this game, and that it's not a big surprise that we saw a big number around that mark. And also, this is why I go back to what I said in that video earlier, how for just such a hype game, it's kind of fitting the fact that it kind of ended in a 0-0, and that I know that it might have give some casual fans in terms of trying to watch the game of soccer for the first time, which if that's the case, yeah, that game probably is not the best way to introduce them to the sports, because that was, I mean, in terms of watchable, if you're just a casual, I would give that maybe like a 3 out of 10 because there were times where it was a little bit of dull. But for me, I'm so used to 0-0 draws, especially in this World Cup. So many 0-0 draws so far that we found in this World Cup. So yeah, I will say that it's not a big surprise that the TV rating was through the roof. Now it's going to be interesting to see when the U.S. play against Iran how the TV rating is going to be, because that's a do or die kind of game for the U.S. I mean, I don't expect the viewership to be just as high as the U.S. versus England game, because I don't believe the hype level is as big in that one as much as the one we saw in the England versus U.S. game. But still, in terms of just the scenario and just the U.S. World Cup hopes to stay alive, have to win that game, and that, again, it's a do-or-die game in that one against Iran. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news? And as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.